All right, class, so let's go ahead and take a look at this one. So you're going to notice subtle differences here. Let's go ahead and factor out the first term. So once again, that first term shouldn't give you any trouble. That will be just simply x and x. That'll be your x squared. How'd you get x squared? Multiplying x and x. And we're going to get the factors of 8 that give you the 2. So once again, we're going to break apart the last term. So once again, break it apart and figure out all the factors of 8. So you got 1 times 8 and 2 times 4. Once again, in your head, what you're going to do is you're either going to add or subtract and see which of these two pairs is going to give you that middle one. In this case, that 2. Well, if we add the 1 and the 8, that gives you 9. If you subtract them, that gives you 7. So obviously those two can be it. So you scratch it off. Next you have 2 and 4. If you take the difference of those two, it does give you 2. So 2 and 4 will be a possibility. So pretty much the same as before. But this is where it's going to be different. Take a look at this. The sign is negative now. So that means we are no longer going to use the positive chart like we did on our previous two. In this case, we're going to use our negative chart. So that means in order for us to get a negative, one of your factors has to be positive, the other one has to be negative. Now, it is very important that you understand that the way you're going to assign the signs, it's not at random. There is a specific order that you have to take a look at it. So order does matter there. The way you place those positives and negatives. So order matters. So how do you know in which order to put them? Once again, very simply, take a look at the middle term. In this case, our middle term is negative. So whatever that middle term is, the larger of those two numbers gets that sign. So in this case, the 4 will become negative, and by default, the other one gets the opposite sign. So the 2 now will be positive. This is why we always check them, to make sure you always get that middle term. Well, first, x times x does give us x squared. 2 minus 4 does give us negative 2. And 2 times negative 4 does give us negative 8. So it does check out. Once again, if you want to completely multiply them, remember I skipped some steps there. You're more than welcome to. You're going to have to refer back to the last 2 sections of chapter 4 for that, if you actually want to go the long way about it. All right, so once again, take a look at the middle term. If you have a negative chart, that means one's positive, one's negative, so the order matters. So you take a look at the middle one, the larger of those two carries that sign. All right, let's move on to the next one there. So in this one, once again, we're going to go ahead and break apart the x squared. So that breaks into x and x. And now we got to get the factor of 48 that gives us a 2. So once again, you're going to have to do this. So that's why I was telling you it's very important for you to learn the multiplication tables. So 1 times 48, 2 times 24, and you keep on going until you have a possible factor for that middle one. So you got 3 times 16, 4 times 12. So far, if you were to either add or subtract any of these pairs, it's not going to give you a 2. 5 can't go, but 6 could go. 6 times 8. And we could go on to 7. 7 won't go. 8 will be a repeat, so you know you've discovered all the factors of 48. And obviously, this one took us a while to get to. So our factor is going to be 6 and 8. If you take the difference between them, that'll give you that 2. So once again, make sure that you list all the factors and see which one gives you that middle term. All right, second part. our sign is negative. So that means we're going to use the negative chart, which means one is positive, one is negative. Once again, remember that the order is important, the way you place the positive and the negative. So what you're going to do is, once again, take a look at the middle one. In this case, the middle one is positive, so the larger of those two carries a positive and the other one carries a negative. Now let's make sure that it does give us that middle one. X times x, it does give you x squared. Negative 6 plus 8. Once again, you subtract, keep the sign of the large one. So it does give you positive 2. And negative 6 times positive 8 does give you negative 48. So once again, it is not a difficult thing to do. You're just going to have to get used to it because it is a bit different from what we're dealing with in sections 5.1 and 5.2. So once again, break apart the first term, break apart the last term, then check to see which of the two charts are you using. Are you choosing the positive chart? Or are you using the negative chart like we did in the last two examples? So remember, with a positive chart, once again, you take a look at the middle one, and whatever it is, whether it's positive or negative, that's the pair that you choose. If you have a negative chart, remember that the order of the signs are going to matter, and the way you place them depends on whatever that middle one is. So if the middle one is negative, the larger of those two is negative. If it's positive, the larger of those two is positive. All right, so this concludes part 2 of section 5.3. I forgot to put the part 2 right there. In a minute, I'll go ahead and do part 3.